Hello and welcome back. We're still here in Shenzhen, China, visiting brands that we talk about here on the channel to learn more about them, not just the products, but the development, the teams, the support, the culture. And today's the turn of GL.iNet. A name, it's one of those, if you know, you know. They're one of those brands within the world of mobile routers, general routers, and more recently, the new KVM devices that they're rocking out with there. And today we're going to be speaking to a number of the team, talking about some of their current and new products. We're also going to learn a little bit more about them, some of their production, some of the values internally, and ultimately whether these guys deserve your money and your data. We're going to make our way in and find out some more. Now, the tour of the Shenzhen branch of GL.iNet made up of several different sections that I'm going to be covering in today's video. Throughout the course of this, I was able to go through product development. I was able to look at a lot of the test facilities. I'm really looking forward to talking to you later in the video about the aging test area. I saw the laboratory. I saw mass product testing and mass product kind of development there. Throughout the course of the entire video, by the way, I saw so many new products that I hadn't seen before that I really think maybe keep an eye on the edges of this video when we go through some of the rooms that were there. The majority of the things I saw there were, of course, mobile router based, but you definitely get the idea that this brand is scaling things up with regards to the KVM product development there. Now, a couple of times there, I spoke to people directly about different product managers. I spoke to someone there that was pretty much the main developer of the KVM based on exactly how they started splintering off into this kind of area, their new business. But let's crack on with everything we learned during the tour. Now, a quick disclaimer, the majority of the rest of this video is going to be filmed here just outside my hotel, because once we started going around the entire tour, although it started at around 9:30 in the morning, it ended up concluding around about lunchtime, where all of the lights in the offices were off because people were taking their breaks and sleeping at their desk and stuff like that, which isn't uncommon here in Shenzhen. The result was I couldn't really film this before concluding things at GL.iNet and shooting over to the next meeting. Next video on that soon. So it's me, my two piles of notebooks going through everything I learned. So GL.iNet, I'm getting in. This is all based on what they have told me. GL.i have not paid for this video. They didn't even cover the cost of me coming to Shenzhen. We've covered this here at NAS Compares. It's full independent control. They're not going to have any editing here. But GL.i stated that they've got a little over 400 members of staff spread across different regions. So, for example, I saw something like 120 to maybe 130 people throughout the course of my tour. You'll see lots of them throughout the course of the video, their desks, their workspaces and more. And they had another 100 or so people in Chengdu. I apologize if I butchered the pronunciation there. And probably the early part of the tour, unsurprisingly, they really wanted to push their brand values. Again, when someone comes over from another region, another country entirely, it makes sense that they would. Again, I met with kind of the father of the company, Mason, and he was sort of talking me through a lot more of their attitudes. And a big part of their early development, they're saying it was to do with community outreach. Now, again, how much of that is soft service and how much of that is just telling me what they think I want to hear, who knows? But I think we have to at least acknowledge their brand, their products are built using built on OpenWRT. A lot of their products are pretty niche in terms of mobile NAS development, and I don't think you can develop products like this and then make the buying public buy them. Their model is, a large part of it is going to be based on need. So however much it was about community and feedback from users, I think we have to acknowledge that mobile routers as a thing are very much based on the demand before the need, before provisioning for that. Now, on top of that, when I went through the different rooms, within that main floor, it was broken into the following sections. So there was the engineering section where a lot of the testing and a lot of the kind of finding out what is possible and what isn't within the back end of the building. But at the front, I saw the marketing sections, I saw the in-country sales and then the exports, I saw the support sections, I saw the software development sections. And what was interesting, and I sort of alluded to this in the introduction, This arm that they're going down into KVMs, this isn't just a dalliance. They've already, I saw, I think around 5 different mainline KVM products, 2 of which we know about in the Comet PoE and the Comet, and of course then there's the Comet Pro that's just concluded crowdfunding. We'll come back to that slightly at the end, but I saw 2 new kinds of KVM device that they're working on. There's a separate video coming up on that, and one of them is a LTE SIM card assisted failover version, and there was another one I could see that I wasn't really able to talk about. That's not, by the way, another product I'll be alluding to in another video, but I had to kind of sign a disclaimer that I wouldn't talk about the new products if I mentioned in this video. If it seems odd, that's why, when it comes to at least the new developing products. But the other sections were to do with the testing. So for example, mass unit testing, Wi-Fi frequency tests, Ethernet bombardment testing there, power consumption test, PSU testing. All of that was done at the Shenzhen location. Now, the production facility is located, I believe it's about an hour and a half away. I wasn't able to go there. They did invite me to go there, but it was just a question of time, really, because I have around about 4 days here and I've got 12 different meetings. But next time I come into Shenzhen in March, I'm going to be going to that production facility, and the brand has offered to provide me with a lot of footage from that. Again, they have filmed it, so I know a lot of that removes a lot of the independence, but if they have provided that, I will include that in this video as well. Now, the product development team was, at least from what I could see at Shenzhen, I saw around desks for 50 to 60 people, and there was around 30 to 40 people there. Then there was the support team. There was around 30 to 40 people in a room that I think could maybe have about 50. And the sales team's around about 30 to 44 people there on site. Another thing I really liked was seeing how they picked really simple things like the shape and the color of these devices. So for example, they were going through some of the shells that they were developing for some of their new mobile routers, like the Beryl 7, the Wi-Fi 7 follow-up to the Beryl. Now with that one, they were sort of going through the color palette and going through and talking about not only just the production costs, but just generally the fading over time, and creating a chassis that, because it's a mobile router, it's going to get a lot of scuffs, it's going to be sort of traveling around and stuff, but it also has to be within their design aesthetic, but also not a color they've used before. And then new generations have to use a kind of palette tone. And it was really interesting speaking to a couple of people there, just the amount of attention to detail in the background that goes into that process. And again, that was a team of about 3 people working on just that chassis development. The same goes with the size and the shape, about when people are going to be taking it through in smaller bags and bigger bags and edges and damage and stuff like that. It was just small elements of the design that I'd not really thought about. Also, in terms of expansion, although we do associate GL.iNet as a China-based company, they are opening up apparently a US-based factory where they're going to be performing construction but also repairs over in the US. Now that broke down into 2 different things. So in the US, they're saying within the first half of 2026 they hope to have a production area up and running in the US, but alongside that in Mexico they are talking about they're already in the process of training support technicians in Mexico for allowing users to get the kind of in-region, in-continent support there. That'll also allow for, they said, better kind of turnaround on any warranty or repairs, keeping stock in country a lot faster and prompter. And I know, again, a lot of this can be soft service and they're giving me the shiniest version of events, but I think it's at least, they're not going to be making a promise like that. They're not going to be able to facilitate in some way within the next 6 months without being proven wrong. And also, mobile routers aren't really things that we think about in terms of next day replacement or warranty repairs, when we think these are such niche products that we don't think that kind of benefit and facility is available. But we also have to think mobile routers aren't normally going to be used by most bog standard users that are not thinking about the losses that can be incurred by inaccess to the internet, insecure data transmission. So I like the idea that they are thinking more towards a a business user for these products, and therefore the fulfillment of those users in the event of issues of not so much manufacturing issues there, but just faults, tolerances. And again, let's talk about kind of the aging. Let's get straight back to the facility and talk about that. For many users, this next section of the GL.iNet building is probably going to be the most interesting, particularly for those that are looking at this brand for travel routers. Now, I've got to hold the mic close to my face because this is the environmental test facility. We've got multiple fans above us right now, and in this room, we've got thousands of units being tested for heat generation and how well they stand in terms of durability. We've got ones being tested for power consumption and overpowering. And at the back, we have got aging. We're going to come through to that in just a moment. But effectively, inside all of these units, and you should hopefully have some stock footage on screen, we're seeing different environmental temperatures for moisture, seeing them in terms of humidity in general, outside environments, and internal high frequency wind, and ultimately just high and very, very low temperatures, all of which being tested for across these travel routers. Right now we're seeing the new generation Beryl Wi-Fi 7 device being multiple tested across these units. Now here behind me, we've got two things to talk about. Let's talk about this one because the one over here is way more interesting behind me. Here we're seeing the Ethernet board testing. We're seeing some early development boards here being tested for an updated product and repeated Ethernet wired testing happening over time. And again, we're seeing a mass of PSUs being tested as well there in the corner. But over here, we've got the aging rack. Now, right now, we're seeing the new Beryl Wi-Fi 7 model here in that like slightly pearl color there that frankly my wife loves. And alongside that, we have got many, many, many Flint 3E Wi-Fi 7 units all undergoing repeated network testing across the board. Again, a lot of users, whether it is that you're considering buying a mobile router, a KVM, or just any device from a brand you're unfamiliar with, knowing you've got stuff like this going on, I think is going to be quite reassuring. Now let's talk about security. Let's be honest, I think it would be fair to say that a lot of people in the US, for example, when it comes to buying a product that's going to be used around data, a lot of them do think about the security of their data, and these are questions that I wanted to raise. So, for example, I was talking about firmware updates, how they are managed, how they are rolled out. A firmware update is generally for at least 2 weeks run consistently across multiple devices in their product lineup. So they aim for one firmware update per quarter to their OpenWRT based platform, and they're hoping to initiate the same level of update frequency, bug fixes, any kind of vulnerabilities that are found within the platform. Again, not inconsistent. Anyone with NAS devices running on Linux will attest to that. But alongside that, they were talking about with these firmware updates running on these individual devices, I asked them about length of support. How long do they commit to these firmware updates given their number of product devices? They cited as an example their Mango device, one of their earliest devices. I think it might even be their first device. And that Mango device is still getting firmware updates a decade later. So at the moment, they're saying how they're committing long term. They said product lifetime, but every time I tried to nail them down to a specific time, they weren't able to give me a direct number. And in the event of a major vulnerability being found, they do say that they commit to a maximum 1 month turnaround on a fix being applied. Now, of course, they couldn't commit on a fix being created and a fix being initiated because sometimes it is built on the platforms. Again, we go back to Linux and stuff like that. But alerting within 7 to 10 days and a fix being applied and issued and rolled out with testing within 30 days there. Again, the software development side, there was around 40 to 50 people in that team, and they said a large contingent of that formed the security. Now, how much of that outside of the Shenzhen office, I'll have to kind of find out more about, but at least within that 40 to 50 person team, I could see a lot of the older firmware updates from around about a year and a half ago being tested again. So they're definitely looking for the inconsistencies between them. But of course, I can't read Chinese, so the extent to which that was affected for me and how much of that is day-to-day running, it's hard to confirm. But I saw nothing untoward there. And the desks and workstations, it wasn't some pop-up office out of nowhere. It was very clear this was a working environment and everyone there was working for them. Now, when I was asking them about future developments, again, a whole separate video on some of those solutions and a great one coming up in CES 2026, I asked them about why they don't engage with 10 gigabit networking, because despite them having a wide variety of router products and now moving into KVM, which is slightly less relevant, I kept asking about why they've never engaged with 10 gigabit networking. And at the moment, they just simply said they don't see the demand in mobile routers for it. And I guess they're right, because let's face it, if you're using Wi-Fi 6 or Wi-Fi 7 in mobile routers, that's probably enough. And plus they've enabled 2.5 gigabit networking, and they say they are dallying with the use of 5 gigabit networking down the road in the next generation. But one of the main reasons they've not really entered into that is simply that the network controller chips and the power draw for a mobile router would just be unsustainable. But at least in things like the Flint series and desktop mobiles and static mobiles, they are working towards 5 GBE and perhaps 10 GBE in the next generation. And when it comes to the KVM devices, they want to expand to a potential 8 devices within the next 18 months across that product portfolio. Some of these are going to be static, some of them are going to be KVM relationship devices, where it is going to be a device at this end and the KVM at your local client device back home, where the connection between them is going to be a great deal more seamless. Again, very early doors, that one. But on alongside that, there was talking more into their VPN devices. Now, by VPN, I mean, because a lot of us know their mobile devices arrive with support of several different VPN server and VPN client software packages, and a lot of their hardware routers have got physical VPN on-off switches built onto the very mobile router themselves. But what's really interesting is them talking about the integration in the current generation of Amnesia, the open source VPN, effectively allowing users to have a free out-the-box VPN on these systems, and then later on down the line reversing and adding this to older generation devices. But at the moment, it's only really going to be the new gen that are going to integrate this into those systems. Bottom line, I don't see them leaving mobile routers behind, but at the moment it looks like they hope that they are going to be the name in KVM within the next 2 to 3 years. And let's face it, when it comes to mobile routers, they're kind of there now. It's not that they're the only name in mobile routers, but I would argue they are the loudest voice in the room. So if they take that energy and delivery on KVMs, I think they might do it. But that was really it for what we saw at GL.iNet's location here in Shenzhen, China. Again, I've talked about this brand for a long time. I really liked what I saw, and I think, and I've talked about this in other videos, there's so many brands in Europe and the US where they form such niche elements of the tech market. We talk about it with NAS quite a lot, that I always find it extraordinarily refreshing when we get here and then find out they're not just a band of 10 to 15 devs working with a third-party hardware developer. It all seemingly looks in-house, but more importantly, they are huge. I mean, they're not the only brand that I've spoke to here, but the majority of brands I spoke to had staff and team members around 1 to 150. I include some of the NAS brands that I've spoke about before. And these guys kind of dwarf that, and this is mobile routers, very, very niche. But again, I'm going to be doing a follow-up article on this and talking about some of the new products that I saw there in a separate video. And again, I can't stress this enough, when they are at CES this year, if you are going to be going to CES, I strongly recommend you check them out, because there's a couple of new toys that's going to be on stand, one of which has been the answer to what a lot of us have wanted from this brand in a particular one of their solutions for a long time. But I recommend you check that out. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.